for tax purposes. Let's have a look.
The review by the Global Forum Secretariat is a formal assessment of Uganda's implementation of the standard of exchange of information on request.
We will have different sessions with the different authorities. We will discuss the legal framework that you have put in place for the implementation of the standards. And we will also discuss how you are implementing this legal framework in practice.
According to the Finance Ministry, the peer review comes in handy in the effort to combat tax evasion and boosting domestic resource mobilization.
Many multilateral development banks, including this Global Forum rating in their policies for routing investments. Similarly, the international supply chain for goods and services are affected by these ratings. Private sector players, i.e. suppliers and lenders, do not channel business through non-compliant countries due to high insurance premiums associated with such business transactions. This increases the cost of doing business in Uganda and affects our tax collections and ultimately the growth of our country.
The first time Uganda was assessed was in 2015. Several gaps were cited in the area of effective exchange of information for tax purposes. 8 years later, the taxman prides for having dramatically improved and set up systems critical in combating tax evasion and other illicit financial flows.
We have done a lot. As I mentioned earlier, a number of laws have been worked on to enable us access and exchange information. The Companies Act, the Cooperatives Act, the Trustees Act. I mentioned the list of laws that have been worked on. But very recently, we also got a new law on automatic exchange of information passed by Parliament for the first time. So in terms of the legal framework, we've done a lot. But even in terms of preparedness of safe exchange of information, protection of our information systems, we have also made significant strides. And also the participation of many agencies. So all these stakeholders are now involved, they know the benefit, and we are working together as a team to make Uganda compliant. So we feel quite prepared, and we are hoping for a compliant review that will enable us to join.
Tax Investigation Department, we commit to work with all agencies involved in the process in order to respond satisfactorily to the questions and issues raised by the assessment team for the success of the process and the good reputation of our dear country, Uganda.
Since 2016, the Global Forum has helped to identify and close legal framework gaps among peer countries with respect to the international standards and the practice of transparency for tax purposes. Dennis Igor and Juman Samba for the Business Roundup.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has commissioned the new Tororo Cement vertical rolling milling plant worth $25 million. Speaking during the commissioning of the plant, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni promised to grant other mining rights to investor Patel to build more factories in the designated 10,000 square mile mineral-rich endowed area in Moroto district.
President Yoweri Museveni has finally commissioned the $25 million Tororo Cement vertical milling plant. According to the investor Patel, the plant has the capacity of producing 100 bags of cement in 1 hour.
This one here, we don't care who does it, whether he's a Ugandan or non-Ugandan, as long as he, especially for industries and services, if he can put his business here, we welcome him and support him. And that's why we had to go against people like Idi Amin who were just ignorant and had chased these Indians. Why chase the Indians? The Indians were doing better work than many of the indigenous Ugandans.
Speaking at the commissioning, President Museveni appealed to politicians not to join leadership if they don't have a clear medical analysis of Uganda's health and economic problems that led to the collapse of the economy during Idi Amin's regime. Museveni emphasized that transforming Uganda will not warrant who knows what, but the capability to take the initiative. He revealed that the Tororo vertical rolling mill plant is not for the Indian community, but for Uganda, saying that it's going to add to Uganda's GDP.
In some of the areas, people have woken up, like in the cattle corridor there, people are producing a lot of milk, and you can see they have improved their livelihood. In Masaka, they are growing coffee.
He also told the congregation that the second sector that will make Uganda catch up with the rest of the developed world is industry. Museveni later appreciated Investor Patel for his contribution to economic development of Uganda, citing a number of products the factory is going to produce.
We just installed a $25 million VRM, which is the most sophisticated mill in East and Central Africa, which has got German technology, and it is producing 150 tons of clinker grinding per hour. By March, with God's grace and God in front with us, we will have installed a 300-ton per hour clinker grinding.
He pledged to give more mining rights to the investor in the rich mineral endowed 10,000 square miles in Moroto district to build more factories. Speaking about the agricultural potential of Bukedi region, President Museveni told the Bukedi people to be calculative in the agricultural sector by embracing the 4-acre model farming system, warning them on investing much in cotton production, which he says requires huge land, which the Bukedi do not possess.
The Bukedi, I'm coming back about the Chibaro in agriculture. These small pieces of family lands, which I see, they are small, but they can be used in a very good way.
Museveni also blamed the Chinese investor who invested in the Usukuru phosphate industry to have reported to him late when some Ugandans conned him off huge sums of money that led to the stalling of the factory.
Some Ugandan officials took bribes from the Kachina there, that Kachina man.
However, he assured the congregation that efforts to return the Chinese investor have been finalized, and soon the Usukuru phosphate industry will be up and running.
A dynamic team of young technology innovators in Uganda is tackling efficiency challenges in the country's bus transport subsector with their ticketing solution, the Bus Stop application. Through this app, they earn a commission on every passenger ticket purchased.
The Bus Stop application was born during the COVID-19 lockdown, when social distancing and cashless transactions became the norm.
Since there's already an account, you can already see that the name shows.
Henry Tumwine, originally a lawyer but also a skilled app developer, joined forces with family peers to create the Bus Stop app under their company Clutch Technologies.
In our industry and market, very many of these companies and industries are foreign-owned or foreign-based. So we're trying to bridge that and actually put a Ugandan company at the forefront.
However, Clutch Technologies is facing challenges that many startups usually face during the initial years of their launch.
These bus owners you see of the bus owners in Kampala, most of them are of an old generation. So switching to this new generation of technology right now is a bit too difficult for them. So there we are finding that difficult whereby they don't accept to join the app. They think maybe we are buffet fraudsters.
Actually, at first we feared them since it was, first of all, they were young and they were new to us.
Coupled with heavy startup costs, this presents a significant hurdle that the Ministry of Information and Communications Technology should address to encourage innovation in the tech sector.
As much as government funds are always advertised, let me say, usually see on TVs, on commercials that they're calling youths or different small startups to apply and get funding. But on the actual ground, the thing is that you find it difficult. You apply in different parastatals, and still there's usually no support.
Simba Coach, one of the interstate partners which transports travelers across Uganda, Kenya, Dar es Salaam and Rwanda, has reported reduced queues at their Nakasero station since adopting the app.
Yeah, the online ticketing has reduced on the queue, and some people find it favorable rather than coming here and lining up and wasting time calling. They find the online booking efficient for them.
As of the date of this report, the Bus Stop app has garnered just over 600 downloads on both Google Play and the Apple App Store. While still in its infancy, the application boasts a simple, swift and responsive user interface compared to many other emerging apps. This attribute positions Bus Stop favorably, giving it the potential to attract a substantial customer base, provided the marketing strategy is executed effectively.
As we are seeking to bridge the gap in regards to this technological movement to these bus companies, right now the bus companies joining is free of charge at the moment, and what we do is we charge a very small percentage to the users or the customers, so that even with that convenience you don't feel the pinch of that price. We are currently working with a third party called Flutterwave, and in so doing we provide maximum security for both the funds, the transactions that the users carry out, and also the money that the bus companies will receive.
With the ever-increasing integration of technology into East Africa's economy, Bus Stop stands as a promising example of local innovation, addressing real-world challenges with competitors like Tiketi and Kasaiba website ticketing solutions, not forgetting bus companies that are already utilizing their own online ticketing solutions. Wadulo, Mark Arnold in Kampala.
In the heart of Lugala Trading Center, Rubaga Division in Kampala, a shoe manufacturing company known as Jora Shoes Limited has been steadily contributing to Uganda's import substitution strategy. Founded in 2010 by a visionary named Yoram, the company has grown from humble beginnings, sourcing locally produced leather to craft a diverse range of shoes for people of all ages and gender.
Atuhamiza Yoram's journey towards establishing Jora Shoes was inspired by a chance discovery in his garden of a worn-out shoe that he repaired and wore with pride. However, it was during his tenure as a teacher that his life took a new direction, fueled by his passion for footwear.
At the school where I was teaching, they needed to buy shoes, and someone delivered the shoes. We got them, and I was like, hey, you mean these shoes can be made in Uganda? The person was like, yes. So I got his number, and at some point, one time I was in Kampala, I landed on a gentleman. I got his contact again. By then I didn't have a phone. That was 2007. So when I got his number in 2010, where I was teaching, they told me they needed shoes. I was like, hey, I have someone who can make these shoes for you. I came, I talked to him, and he was able to sell to me the shoes. I took them. I was like, I think this is something that I can do.
One vital aspect of Jora Shoes' commitment to local sourcing is its partnership with Kawumu Tannery. This tannery, commissioned by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in October 2022, provides the essential raw material, leather, which Jora Shoes transforms into high-quality footwear.
The leather which we use, it is quite expensive. It's not cheap when you have to compare it with the synthetic leather which is imported from China or elsewhere. Then the other thing is also the soles, because some of the soles we also import them. So those constitute the biggest cost of Jora Shoes.
Jora Shoes has adopted a strategic marketing approach targeting bulk consumers, such as schools that purchase sizable quantities to supply their students and make a profit. Over the years, the company has expanded its operations, employing over 20 full-time staff members.
Companies like Jora Shoes are going out of their way to produce products that were formerly heavily imported. But to what extent are they benefiting from the import substitution incentives?
The criteria and the requirements they need for you to be able to qualify, they are so high. And like such loans, I'm not kind of person who runs for loans, given my background, because I would want to get a loan when I know it is going to be repaid in this way. So we have grown organically, we have never gotten anyone's loan, we have used our own money.
As the workforce has grown, so has the complexity of managing the business, requiring careful economic decisions to ensure its sustainability.
At the start it was easy because we had very few workers, but now you need money. There has to be constant production, short of which they will be seated and they will not be working, and you'll be making a loss.
Despite the company's success, Jora Shoes faces challenges, particularly in dealing with inconsistent, costly electricity supply. These issues, coupled with substantial tax expenses, have led to the fluctuations in production capacity. On good days, the company can produce up to 300 pairs of shoes, but this output can be influenced by fluctuations in demand. Jora Shoes stands as a testament to the potential of import substitution in Uganda's economy. As the company continues to grow, it remains an example of how small industries can play a significant role in economic development, even in the face of challenges. Wadulo Arnold in Rubaga, Kampala.
The Uganda Cooperative Alliance is lobbying and pressurizing government to revive the Cooperative Bank that went under in 1999. According to Ivan Asimwe, the General Secretary of UCA, cooperators are suffering from the bureaucratic systems and overpriced interest rates charged on loans by commercial banks.
The cooperative societies have played and continue playing a critical role in the development of economies globally. In Uganda, cooperatives date back to the early 20th century, says Ivan Asimwe, the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance.
In 1913, 4 farmers here in Mubende, because of the unfavorable trade barriers, the conditionalities that were there by then, especially regarding the farmers, the 4 farmers said enough is enough. You people, we need to come together, form a cooperative, work together so that we stop this nonsense of exploitation.
The 1960s and 70s was the rosy times of cooperatives in Uganda. The success of cooperative societies led to the formation of the now defunct Cooperative Bank of Uganda that was closed down by the central bank in 1999.
You can imagine by 1965, only cooperatives that were in agriculture, coffee, cotton, they were controlling 325 million, 311 million, 500 Uganda shillings. By then, that was a lot of money. Because for people who were there by then, the listeners, they will tell you, someone would work for like 1 shilling or 2 shillings. But these ones were millions. They had 100% monopoly to gin cotton. They had 14 ginneries and 7 coffee chewing works. By then, they were controlling 90% and 60% of Arabic and Robusta coffee. So in other words, the economy was in the hands of Ugandans in the cooperatives.
According to the Uganda Cooperative Alliance, the collapse of the Cooperative Bank was unfortunate and recommends a speedy revival in order for it to address the plight of the more than 40,000 registered cooperatives in the country with an estimated 15 million members.
Because we have been with these commercial banks for a long time, but the cry is the same. The same, we have not really changed on our disappointments and crying, the way of crying. So can we learn from the past mistakes and have a cooperative bank up and running?
Although the country is aggressively courting investors from across the globe in a quest to boost the foreign direct investments, the Cooperative Alliance is of the view that the cooperative model guarantees sustainable and long-term development.
And I want to tell Ugandans, there is no magic. We are not going to develop this country unless we use the cooperative model. There is no any other model. Capitalism has failed us because capitalism is promoting few people at the expense of majority. And it is not only it is not even promoting Ugandans, but it is promoting other people from outside, the so-called investors. So once you have an economy that is in the hands and in the control of the investors who are not nationals, then that economy is not sustainable. So for us to build a very strong and sustainable economy, we need to bring all Ugandans in the equation. And the only model that will bring them in the equation is the cooperative model.
China's in-orbit Shenzhou 16 crew on September 21st demonstrated the collusion of steel balls with different weights to explain the law of conservation of momentum. The experiment is the fourth lecture of its kind and has become China's space science education brand, introducing a series of classes in which the astronauts act as teachers in space as they interact with students.
What an important moment in the history of China's space station. As we can see, Shenzhou 16 crew are now entering the Tianhe core module, while Shenzhou 15 crew are now waiting to welcome them on the other side. After the swift automated rendezvous, the Shenzhou 16 spaceship docked on the Tianhe core module from below. The whole space station consists of 6 spacecraft, including 2 lab modules, 2 manned spaceships, and the Tianhe core module and the Tianzhou 6 cargo ship.
像最开始的时候，我们当时是2天交会对接这样的一个过程。后面就通过包括这个随着这个技术的发展，然后包括各个方面的技术发展嘛，然后现在逐渐的把这个时间就缩短到6.5个小时了。
A total of 6 technonauts will be working and living on the Tiangong space station over the coming days, until the Shenzhou 15 crew eventually return to Earth.
我们一直是有人在这边值班的就是载人船啊、空间站系统啊，都一直有人在这边值班。航天员的安全，对，这是首位的。
The China space station is expected to be operational for at least 10 years, and we can expect to witness handovers like this twice annually, as Shenzhou 16 crew begins its 6 months in space. They will take part in spacewalks and a range of different experiments.
It's a pity that when it rains, our city manifests the way it did yesterday. But this is a situation that, one, there is a solution coming up. I will start with the point of good hope, but I must also first go back to what led us here. For the most part, we have what we would consider to be adequate drainage for the runoffs from across the city. However, a number of human activities have led us to where we are. Number one, when citizens continue to wantonly and indiscriminately litter and clog the waterways and available drainages, what you saw yesterday is as a result of clogged drainage systems, largely from plastics, from other debris, and I hasten add, sheer garbage from our respective homes that is disposed of in a bad manner. So we as KCCA are concerned, and we wish to sound a clarion call to say, can we stop littering? Can we behave responsibly and not dump garbage wherever? Because it finds its way to clog our drainage channels. But secondly, our city is set on beautiful undulating hills, and for every hill there is a valley, and for most of these valleys these are wetlands that otherwise played the role of sapping up and reducing on the rain runoff, but also channeling it to the lake. What have we seen at the moment with our wetlands, as it were? A lot, if not all of them, have been encroached on by not animals, not aliens, but we as citizens of this city. So the moment you build in waterways, the moment you clog the natural flow of water, what we saw yesterday in terms of flooding is evidently as a result of water trying to find desperately its way into the low-lying areas. Now, of course, people will argue, who gives the licensing for the construction in these places? I hasten to add that KCCA does not condone or even license the construction or encroachment on our wetlands. What we see is people doing what they are doing because they can. And we know this. Let's not bury our heads in the sand and claim that we do not know that in this town we behave as if we are above the law. To the best of my knowledge, gladly there are no fatalities that have been reported, but we have been, of course, informed of destruction of property. We have seen disruption of business, and we have seen, of course, disruption of movement and mobility across the city. But I also say the hope is that part of the reasons as to why we've seen some flooding in areas is because the city is one huge construction site for infrastructure. You know that we are currently running a number of road rehabilitation projects under the Kampala City Roads Rehabilitation Project, and many of these areas and the construction going on therein is as a result is the reason as to why we've seen some of this flooding.
Debt management is a discipline that starts with you. Never see yourself go down the trap of losing your peace of mind or your precious assets, especially if there is a chance that you can go ahead without borrowing. Live within your means as you strive to grow your capital base. Thank you for being a part of this week's episode of the Weekly Business Roundup with me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold. Catch us on the next, same time, same place. From the team, we must say good night.